The wind carried the taste of dust that day, a dry whisper brushing across the endless sweep of prairie grass. The sun bled its fire into the horizon, painting long shadows across the trail where two riders moved in silence. Nayeli held the reins with steady hands, though her heart wandered far beyond the rhythm of her horse. Her younger sister Ilara rode beside her, humming softly, the fragile tune carried away into the vastness of the Wild West. Their journey was not extraordinary, only two women crossing a forest road as countless travelers had before them, but there was a tension in the air that turned every rustle of leaf into a warning. The old pines swayed, and somewhere beyond the canopy, a crow shrieked as though delivering an omen. Nayeli tightened her grip. She had learned to listen to the whispers of the land. Something was coming. It came not as thunder, nor as storm, but as the heavy stomp of boots and the coarse laughter of men. From behind the trees, figures emerged, bandits, faces shadowed by hats pulled low, eyes glinting with hunger not only for gold but for power. Ilara froze, her small gasp cracking the fragile silence. Nayeli's heart raced, but she shifted her body between her sister and the intruders. Her voice shook but carried defiance as she told them to let them pass. The men only laughed, stepping closer, their boots sinking into the soft earth. Time slowed. The world grew sharp in its details, the scrape of leather against steel as one of them drew a knife, the shiver of fear running down Ilara's arms as she clung to the saddle. Nayeli's breath caught. She thought this might be the end. But then, the sound of hooves. A heavy rhythm, slow at first, then stronger, commanding. Dust spiraled as a massive horse came into view, and atop it sat a man unlike any she had seen. Clint Marshall, they would later call him. A giant of a cowboy, broad-shouldered, silent as if carved from the earth itself. His presence shifted the air. The bandits turned, startled, as though a phantom had risen from the plains. Clint's eyes were hard, steady, and he moved with the economy of someone who had fought too many battles to waste a single motion. He dismounted in one fluid movement, his boots striking the ground with finality. What followed was not chaos, but a storm held in quiet hands. He fought without fury, only precision, the crack of a fist, the swing of an arm, the sudden retreat of men who realized they had bitten into stone. Within moments, the bandits scattered, swallowed by the trees they had come from. Nayeli could barely breathe. Her sister clutched her arm, whispering, "Who is he?" But no answer came. The man dusted off his gloves, adjusted his hat, and mounted again. He did not look at them long, did not wait for gratitude. He simply rode away, vanishing into the dusk as though the land itself had reclaimed him. Only the pounding of Nayeli's heart remained. That night, long after they had reached the safety of their camp, Nayeli lay awake. She replayed the moment again and again, the flash of his eyes, the weight of his silence, the strange mixture of strength and sorrow etched across his face. It was not merely that he had saved them, it was the loneliness she glimpsed in him, as though he carried a burden no one else could touch. Something in her spirit stirred, a pull she could not name. Her sister teased her gently, but Nayeli only smiled faintly. She knew what she had felt, and she knew she would not rest until she found him again. Days later, whispers in the village led her to the edge of the forest. They spoke of a cabin, hidden deep in the woods, where a lone cowboy kept his distance from the world. Nayeli followed the trail, the crunch of pine needles beneath her boots, her heart pounding like a drum. The cabin was small, smoke curling from the chimney, an axe leaning by the door. She hesitated only once, then stepped forward and knocked. The sound echoed in the still air. The door opened. Clint Marshall stood before her, towering yet weary, his face shadowed by both his hat and something older, heavier. His gaze was sharp, as though measuring the weight of her soul. She swallowed, her courage trembling at the edges, but her words came clear. "Will you marry me?" Silence fell like a stone into water. Clint blinked once, his jaw tightening. For a moment she thought he might laugh, or at least soften, but instead his voice came low and final. No, nothing cruel, only a wall built high. Nayeli felt heat rise in her chest, rejection burning like fire. She turned before her tears could fall, walking away with her pride intact but her heart breaking. Yet even as she left, the embers within her refused to die. Life pulled her onward. She tended to her people, walked among the children, tried to silence the echo of his voice. But fate has its own designs. One day, as she gathered water near the river, she heard a scream. A child had slipped, the current dragging him under. Without thought, Nayeli flung herself into the cold, thrashing water. Her arms burned as she fought the river, pulling the boy to shore with every ounce of strength she had. She collapsed in the mud, holding the child as he coughed and gasped back to life. She looked up, and there he was. Clint stood at the bank, his horse behind him, eyes fixed on her with something new. Not just respect, but awakening. He had seen her bravery, her selflessness. She was not only a woman who longed for him, she was a force, as fierce and unyielding as the land itself. For the first time, his silence felt like a prison, and he wondered if he had been the coward all along. He did not propose, not yet. Instead, he appeared in small ways, bringing water to her camp, helping mend a fence, walking beside her as dusk fell. Their conversations were sparse, but in every pause their eyes spoke. He told her, slowly, of his past, losses that had hardened him, mistakes that had taught him caution. She listened without judgment, her presence a balm. She revealed, in turn, her own scars, the quiet judgments of her people, who saw her dreams as foolish, her heart as reckless. Through these exchanges a bond grew, not in declarations but in gestures. The brush of hands when passing bread, the laughter shared when Alara teased them both, the stillness of riding together beneath a starlit sky. And yet the wall within him remained. He held back, bound by fear of failing again, fear of hurting her. Nights passed, heavy with unsaid words, until the storm came. Thunder rolled, rain lashing the cabin walls. Nayeli had sought shelter there, her hair dripping, her spirit steady. Clint paced like a caged animal, torn between silence and confession. At last he spoke. His voice shook, though his frame did not. He told her of the loneliness, the shame, the fear that had chained him for years. He told her why he had refused, that he did not believe he deserved love, not hers, not anyone's. She listened, her hands folded, her eyes unwavering. When he finished, the silence was deep enough to drown in. Then she reached out, resting her hand on his. His breath caught, and in that stillness, something within him broke free. His voice came soft, raw, trembling. "Without you, there is no horizon worth chasing." The words hung between them like lightning, illuminating all that had been hidden. His hand closed around hers, tentative, reverent. Their foreheads touched, and for the first time, his fortress fell. The days that followed carried a new rhythm. Not fast, not rushed, but steady as the river that once tried to steal a child. They walked together, worked side by side, built trust in small pieces. And when the time came, when the land bloomed with the scent of sage and the sky opened wide, they stood before their people. Clint's hands trembled as he held hers, but his voice was clear. Nayeli's smile was radiant, her strength shining. Alara wept softly, joy spilling down her cheek. The vows were simple, spoken not in grandeur but in truth. Two souls, once lost, now bound. The wind stirred through the grass, carrying their promise into the endless horizon. And if you, dear heart, have ever felt the weight of loneliness, know this: love does not always arrive with thunder, nor demand to be seized in a blaze. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the courage to ask, in the strength to wait, and in the grace to see another's soul. And when it does, it is not fire that sustains it, but the steady flame of two hearts learning, at last, to walk side by side.